All right. Hello, everyone. And today we are going to be finalizing hot reloading. So before we jump into that, just the couple obvious house cleaning items to do. For those of you who are new to the stream, we are developing a game engine live here on stream. And all of these videos will be recorded on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Travis Broman. This originally started off as a YouTube series, and it's kind of continuing in that way. It's just, it's going to be done live here, and then archived there. So basically what we are going to do, we're going to try this going forward and see how it works out. I don't know if we are going to stick with Twitch or go back to YouTube. I haven't really decided yet, but at least for now, this seems to be working out pretty well. So this is what we're going to kind of stick with platform-wise. All that being said, this is designed to be an interactive stream. So if you guys have any questions, comments, whatnot, feel free to drop them in the chat. I am keeping an eye on that as well. As always, your support is greatly appreciated, so feel free to give me a follow if you like the content that I'm making here. And of course, any subs and whatnot are always appreciated. If you're not able to catch the stream live, you can also catch it on the YouTube channel. If you're viewing there, please toss me a like and subscribe on the video, and leave a comment with any questions that you may run into, or just to say hi. Any kind of engagement is always appreciated, so I thank you guys very much for that. So, with all that said, we're going to pick this up where I left it off last night, because I kind of ran out of time, and my dog was desperate to go to the bathroom, so I kind of needed to take him out too. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to pick up where we left off last night, which is we have everything in place that we need to hot reload our game code. And in fact, we have that all hooked up and ready to go. We just ran into some problems with it. So the basic premise is we go ahead and build our project once, and then we will go ahead and run it. And the idea is that we should be able to come over here and kick off a build testbed lib.bat that we set up. And this is basically just copied straight out of the build all script. And this is going to perform a build of the testbed lib only. And then that's going to write out to the testbed lib assembly, or the DLL in this case for Windows. And then our application should pick that up. Now, that all seems to work pretty well so far from what I can ascertain, but there are a couple of issues with it. We're getting some problems with it. So let's go ahead and sort of try this real quick and debug into what some of those problems are. So I'm going to run this build script. And we can see here that the first thing that we've kind of run into is within the console system itself during a console write line. We see here in the log that we are hot reloading the game DLL. We can go ahead here and check out the thread that has the exception. So let's go. So we see here it's actually a direct result of us reloading the DLL, right? So we got our watched file uploaded. We are unloading our library. This in turn is calling kfree, which is calling kfree aligned, which is calling our dynamic allocator free aligned. And it in turn is throwing an error saying dynamic allocator free aligned, trying to release block blah 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 outside of allocator range. Now this actually does make sense because all of this stuff was actually set up before our engine was started up and running. So the initial allocations that took place on the block of memory that we're trying to free were actually allocated outside of this. So the fact that it's throwing this error actually does make sense. We probably ought to fix that or maybe suppress this error message in that case, because it's not, I guess, really an error. It's more of a warning. But that is a legitimate issue. So from there, we're going into our log output and from there, obviously, we are doing our console write line. And this is where it is throwing up. So we have an unhandled exception, access violation executing location. So this tells me that it's trying to execute a function at this memory address. So this to me is a hint that we're probably trying to execute something that is a function pointer. And that function pointer is probably not valid because we've reloaded a DLO. So if I had to guess, since this is in the console, it's probably our debug console, because that's the only console consumer we have. And we can verify that by taking a look at the state pointer consumers. We only have one. But if we look at the callback here, we see that the memory address here matches the one in our error message over here. So it is indeed what we think it is. And so what we'll do to get past this one for right now is we'll go into the debug console. And what we're going to do is we're just not going to register this consumer right now. We are going to put a to-do here. Reload this function pointer when the library is hot reloaded, right? And so this should get us around that error at least, right? So when we register the console consumer, it's actually using this debug console consumer, right? Which is indeed part of our test lib, our testbed lib. So that obviously won't have this same address when we actually reload it. So we're actually going to have to handle that. Anyway, so we've rebuilt. Let's go ahead and run again. And we have our application up and running. We're going to go ahead and build the testbed lib bat one more time. And this time, we have actually got a different access violation executing location. So this is 7FF blah 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 22310. So I wonder if, yeah, that is the update function right here. So it looks like at this point our function pointer is not correct. So this is all kicked off in platform pump messages, because that is where our update watches happens, and that winds up kicking things off. Let's see. So why would that not have an updated function pointer? Because when we do the hot reload with that one, we are actually updating. So let me see. Because by the time we get out of this, that reload should have already happened. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a breakpoint here, but I'm going to disable it. I'm going to get rid of these other breakpoints I have down here because I don't really need them. So I'll keep that one disabled. And then I'm actually going to stop the application. And in here, let's see. So we have the watch file updated. We do the unload, do the copy file, and then we load GameLib. So let's go ahead and set a breakpoint here, just so that we can confirm that all these things are actually loading and correct. I'm pretty sure all the indexing and whatnot is correct. So we should actually be good on all of that. But let's go ahead and run. And we're running again. And we're going to build. Interesting. So it has not actually hit our breakpoint. So for some reason, it has not hit our breakpoint here. I expected that it would hit this first, but it has not. The only thing that I can think of is perhaps maybe the file wasn't done being written to yet. Although I don't think we've actually gotten any errors in here. But let's set breakpoints on all these return falses, right? Just in case we hit return false on any one of these, we'll know exactly where we went wrong. It is very odd though that it didn't hit this breakpoint yet. The only thing I can think of, oh, you know what? It could have. Let's check the logs. Oh, copy file failed. So that would cause this not to run, which would cause our first problem. So we should probably get a little bit more information here. So if I recall correctly, let's do a new incognito window here. We'll say win32. What was I think it was get last error. Okay, so the return value is the calling thread's last error code. And I believe if copy file fails, we can actually get that code. So let's go into copy file, and we'll add a little bit more detail here. So let's go copy file A. Pretty sure that this had something in here. Okay, here we go. So this is, we can actually look for this specifically. So we can say get last error and see if that returns file not found. So let's go ahead and do that. So copy file A. Well, let me actually go back to it again because I don't remember if its return value was. So if the function succeeds, the return value is non-zero. Okay, so this is kind of like a regular Boolean. So let's say if not result, which should only happen if it's 0, then we'll say get last error. And what does that return? A D word. Okay, D word error equals that. And then we'll say if error equals, what was I think it was file not found? Error file not found. I guess, I guess I can say k error. File not found. And that's going to be, I think, the source file. Existing file name does not exist. Copy file fails. Okay. So we'll output the source here for that. And we'll return false. And then this will actually just say return true. And actually we'll move the return false here because no matter what error we get here, we're going to have some sort of error. Let's also spit out the error code. I don't know how many of these there are. I suspect, yeah, there's a crap ton of them. Okay. I guess what we can do is spit out the error code directly. File not found, and then we'll say error. So if it's file not found, we'll specifically say this, and then we'll say copy file failed, and spit out the error message if it's something besides that. And then we can just sort of reverse look up that code. All right, so if we have an error, we return false. If we don't, we return true. All right, so let's kill the application, build this, and so we have this running. Build again. All right, okay, so copy file failed, error 32. So what is error 32? Let's see. 32. Sharing violation. Process cannot access the file because it is being used by another process. Ooh, that is an interesting catch. Okay. So, let's actually include this. Else if rather. Right, let's actually be explicit about this one. So I'm just going to copy this message here. Is in use by another process. Okay, so what this tells me is basically when we're triggering this, that our compilation is not finished. And that is why the copy file is failing, which is why the function pointers aren't being reloaded. That's why the whole thing is crashing and burning. So the real question is, what do we do about it? TNT Master 58, hi, how are you? Welcome to the stream. Welcome. We're just doing sort of an extra stream tonight, just to kind of pick up where we left off yesterday and try and get this hot reloading stuff working. Okay, so this copy file thing is kind of interesting because the file is being written to, but it's not actually finished being written to by the time our engine picks up that it's been written to. So the compiler has not released it yet, which means that we are not able to actually copy it, which is kind of annoying. So there's a couple ways that we could handle this. We could essentially keep trying, which might be the way to go. Or we could try sleeping. So if we sleep for a second, or maybe half a second, or something like that, maybe that'll be enough time for the process to actually release. But what's interesting here is we have this bit of information here, that the file is locked, right? But we don't really have that outside of this process. And I think this is really only going to be an issue on Windows, right? Because like Linux and I think Mac, neither one of those really maintains a file lock. Just because you have something open, like once it's loaded into memory, that's it. But Windows kind of does. So I'm wondering if we should just compensate for this now, and yeah, I think I'm going to do that. All right. So I think what I'm going to do for this is go to platform, And instead of returning a Boolean here, I'm going to return a file error code. Do I want to call it file error code? Maybe a platform error code. Yeah, I think that makes a little bit more sense. So let's type def and enum. And we're going to call this platform error code. Yeah, platform error codes, right? And so I guess we can just define these kind of the same way that we did for Windows, right? So we have a file not found and a sharing violation. So we'll say, oops, caps lock for that, platform error file not found, yeah, equals, let's call that 1. Before we do that, let's say platform error success, which sounds a little bit weird, but that's basically where we don't have an error, but we need to return an error code. So I think that kind of makes sense. And then platform error file locked is what we'll say for that last one. And we'll just use these instead, right? That should probably be singular instead. So platform error code. We'll come down here to copy file, platform copy file rather. Where was that? Here we go. And we will change it to that, and we will return an error code indicating success or failure. Which means that the copy file here will need to be updated to that. Instead of returning false for these guys, we'll need to return something a little bit more explicit. We should probably also put something in here for unknowns. So I'm actually going to bump these numbers up a little bit. Let's put a catch-all in here as well. So we'll say platform error unknown, right? Because we're going to need that as well. So here we can say return platform error. Let's see. Oh, Nasamor. Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate the support there. Appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to say file not, wasn't it file not found? Oh, IntelliSense, you bananas. All right, we want that one. In this case, we're going to return platform error file locked. In this one, we'll return platform error unknown, right? Because we've encountered some other error here that we don't know about. This can go away. And then this will return platform error success. Okay. That should give us what we need. Because this way we can at least treat the errors a little bit differently. So what this will allow me to do is I can come back here to our entry and In the places where we're copying, doing the platform copy file, we can check the error code. And if it's locked, we can just sort of sleep for a second and then try again. So I guess I'll do it here in the create, and then I'll just kind of do the same thing elsewhere. Let's see. So we have platform error code, and we'll say, do we want result? Yeah, we'll say code. And we're not going to set that to anything just yet. Actually, we'll default it to unknown. Platform error code unknown, right? Then we'll set up a while loop, and then code. Do I really want to do it that way? Yeah, I guess we can say while code equals platform error locked. I guess we could start off with locked, right? While we have that, we're basically going to repeat this code. And then we're going to get rid of this if. Right? We're going to say code is equal to that. Right. So as long as it's locked, so if it hits anything else besides locked from this, it's going to bleat about it. Or it's actually going to kick out of this, and then we can bleat about it. So we'll say if code do we want to check each error case individually? I don't think so. We'll say if code is not equal to error platform error success. Then let me get that K error message back. All right. Okay, so this is basically going to spin as long as the file is locked. And then once the file is no longer locked, or if it's not there or some other error, it'll boot out of this. We'll check for success at the end of that. If we did not land on a success, that means we had some sort of error, and we need to report that as normal. The only other thing I'll do here is I will check the code to see if it is in fact this. And we will platform sleep for, I don't know, 100 milliseconds, and then try again. And that should alleviate a lot of that. Okay, so that should be that. And I will be right back because there are ads. So be right back. All right, and we're back. Cool. So, yeah, I just need to get the sort of timing of the ads right there. But you know, as I progress with this, I'll sort of learn how all of it works. All right. So where we're at is we are basically just going through to figure out whether or not our file is locked during this copy operation. If it is, we're just going to sleep and then try again. So that should fix that part of the bug. So I'm going to take this logic and also come up here where we are actually performing this copy as well. Should be the same thing as down here, so I should be able to just drop this in right here. And that should be, oh, you know what? I called this code. We should probably just call this error code to not conflate it with this guy up here. Because that would be an issue. So let me actually take this, copy it back down here. Okay. So let's build that and see if that actually resolves our issue. Unresolved external symbol. Oh, did I not export platform sleep? Probably not. Did not. Export that. All right. Okay, so built. Let's run. All right, so we've got the application up and running. Let's go ahead and build the testbed. And okay, so file is in use by another process. Okay, so it did pick that up, but it does look like we actually succeeded this time because now we're getting our game load lib. So I'm actually just going to let this roll and see what we wind up with. Okay, yeah, and we're somewhere different. So I'm convinced that that issue is fixed. And now it looks like we actually have some sort of different callback that is occurring. That is, yep. So 3217EE, that is this. So the callback of this is invalid, right? So it looks like we have a message being sent here that has a callback that is no longer valid. So this is probably another function pointer. That is part of the actual game code. So let's take a look real quick and see what the code is. It's 21. That's not terribly useful. Okay, so it's this hover ID changed, and that is in fact in our game code. So we're going to have to modify that as well. So we can kill the application. We have several different events here actually that we're going to need to handle. So all of these registers and all of the unregisters are going to need to happen on a load and unload. So what this means is whenever we unload the library, the game library, and reload the game library, we're actually going to have to tell the game library about that so that it is aware of what is going on. And we'll even be able to pipe in our debug console into that as well. So let me just take a look real quick into entry. So first off, let me get rid of this dead code. We don't need this anymore. Right. So we initialize the application here. Do we have how do I want to set this up? So basically we need to say app we need another function pointer for our app is essentially what that means. Okay, which is simple enough. So we can actually use this same setup that we have here to actually hook that up. So we'll go to the app. We will get the functions set up there. So that in our case is going to be our game library, or our. Let me close some of these other things here. Don't need that. Our testbed main C we do need. In fact, we're actually going to need the H file for this as well. So we're going to export two new functions here. And we'll call this do I need to check the result? No, I'm going to say void for now. Application lib on unload. I think that's fine. That's of course going to take the application in, and then we need on load. Right? Right. Okay. So obviously we need to take these and define them in our C file. So we'll just put this, I guess, do we want to go all the way to the bottom of this? No, probably not. Let's put it right after shutdown. Right. And before we do anything else with this, let's go ahead and hook that up in entry C. So let's do app. Oh, you know what? We don't have we don't have in the interface this set up either, actually. I guess it's fine for the application to have this. We're not always going to want that for all of our libraries, but I think for the application interface, that should be fine. So we're going to take these, go over to the application, and add a couple more function pointers. All right. And then obviously we'll be able to assign these over. So got that. That should be good there. Now we should be able to say in entry. First of all, we'll load these two. So let me just grab load and unload. Store those in the game library. And then app application lib onload. Ooh. That should just be lib onload. The application is kind of redundant there. Right, so that's just going to be lib onload equals app game library functions 6.pfn. Right, so that's going to be that guy, and then we're going to do the same for unload, except that'll be index 7. And if we recall, we actually had 6 down here being used for something else. Is that in? Where was that? Right here. This is going to be the last one that gets loaded, so that's actually going to be, was it 8? Yes, 8. Okay. Again, we should probably come up with a better way of tracking it than that. That's a little bit fragile, but this should work for right now. So now we have a way to tell the application when we're loading and unloading. So obviously when we load the game lib, we need to actually immediately invoke that. So we'll say app lib on load. We'll just go ahead and call that, and then we'll say app we'll pass app invoke the onload. Okay, so we have that so that we can resubscribe to our messages in there. Whenever we unload, which the only place we actually do that is here. Before we actually unload this, we need to call app lib on unload app. Tell the app it is about to be unloaded. Right, and then actually unload the apps lib. Okay, so now in these we should be able to handle our registers and unregisters. Since there are a few places that we actually want to stand these up, I'm thinking, let's take a look at the order of operations here. So in initialize, we are standing up all this mesh stuff, loading up our models, our transforms, all that stuff. And then at the very end of this, we are doing an event register. I think it's okay to actually do these probably earlier than this. Game inst is just the application. So I think we can actually move these as well. So that is what I'm going to do. I will forward declare two private methods. We'll say application register events and application unregister events. And I will take out all of these and put them down here. And we'll move these unregisters to unregister events. Marcus, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. Well, you know what? We're actually going to need the game instance for that, for both of these guys, actually. So let's go ahead and add those. All right. That way, when we call it, we have everything we need. So here's our unregisters. And then for our registers, let's see, where were those? Those were, this is the update loop right here. Okay, so I can move these from here down to our register events. And then for now, I'm basically going to point the unload to the unregister events, passing along the game inst, and the load to register events, passing along the game inst. And that should eliminate the issue of our function pointers not being valid when we're reloading the DLL. I don't think I missed anything. So we'll go ahead and build, run So yay, we have our application running. Let's go ahead and build. Oh, I saw symbols load. We do have some errors here, but again, those are nothing we need to pay attention to. Oh, and look, we are still kind of running. So it looks like, oh, all right. So I see the next thing that is actually going to bite us. So it was running until I hit a key press. And this is because our debug console also had things registered for events that are now no longer correct. So we need to actually fix our debug console anyways, because there's a couple things wrong with it. First off, we turned off the register consumer. We need to turn that back on so we have our debug console. So let's go ahead and turn that back on. The biggest problem with the debug console is this, once again, static data. That is not the way that we need this to work. And I think we are actually using some events in here. So this is going to wind up being something similar where we have to track the load and unload of the library and unregister and re-register for these events. So this is one of the things, unfortunately, that we're going to have to keep an eye on as we have code that is hot reloadable, is avoiding basically registering for these events outside of the sort of time that you would need to load and unload the library. You're going to have to make sure that you track everything you're registered for so that you know to unregister, re-register for that, which is not a huge deal. It's just something to keep in mind. So let's see. I guess the first thing we'll have to tackle is the debug console state. So a lot of this stuff is actually private because we did all this in the C file. And I'm fine with that. The only thing is, when we register the consumer, okay, so I actually built this with this in mind. Okay, so we're actually, it's not going to be that bad. So we have an instance that we can pass along that is passed whenever our console consumer write is called. And so from there we can actually get the instance out of it to be able to access the state. So this will handle that just fine. Debug console on key. This is also a private method that is just in this file. Debug console create. I think our, let's see, we have a lot of these things exposed here. Just trying to think about how I want to handle all these events, because these are actually tied to key bindings here. We do pass a user data to that. So I'm actually thinking when we set up the key bindings itself, we're passing along the game inst to everything. Okay, so actually we're not in bad shape here either. We can actually just modify pointer function keybind callback, which I think actually takes user data. Okay, so basically we're just going to have to pass around a a structure for our debug console. We probably should have done it this way to begin with, so that we wouldn't have this pain now. That's what I get for taking a shortcut, I guess. So the first thing we're going to have to do is remove all of this state pointer garbage, because we can't have static data in here, because this changes every time you reload the DLL. And obviously we don't want to restand up state or any of that, so we need to actually start working with a proper instance of it. With that said, we have these types here, which I don't see anything in here that I am not willing to also expose at the header level. So I think I'm going to move these to the header file. We'll put that here, I guess. So we have that. The only thing is these two UI texts that we own here, we can't forward declare this anymore. We'll actually have to include UI text, which is kind of crappy, but it's the debug console, so I'm not really all that worried about it. So I'll remove it from here and include it from here instead. Okay, so that's the debug console state. We'll basically need to change every one of these methods to work with a state. So in this case, let's go ahead and create a pointer to the state, and we're going to call this out console state. So when we create that, we're basically going to write to this pointer. When we load, we're going to wind up basically doing the same thing, except it's just going to be state. So I'll just call that state. Same thing with unload, update. Debug console get text. What actually does that? I think it's just our game code. Yeah, it is just our game code. So our game code's going to have that. So that's fine. I will put that there. Visible. We'll go ahead and pass state here. Visible set, we'll pass state there. And then we'll pass state for all of these things here. These are basically all of our keybound methods, so I may wind up having to change this to void pointers. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to, because they're user data. Actually, where is visible used? Okay, so that's actually not directly bound, so that's actually fine. Okay. All right, so these two can keep state. These, I think, are going to have to be void pointers, though. Okay, so we'll need to make these changes. Let's do a split right. We'll need to make all these changes in the C file. So I'm also going to get rid of state pointer. And starting with, I'm going to skip the private methods for now and come back to them. So console create. All this is going to do is, we'll say if out console state. We no longer need this allocation. And instead of dealing with a state pointer, we're just going to say out console state for all of that. And then when we register the consumer instance is going to be the out console state as well. So now we actually have an entry there. So that should be fine. The load is just going to take the state. So this is going to say, if not state. I think this is mostly going to be the type of changes we're going to have to make all the way down. So when we're loading, we're just going to deal with state all the way down. Yep, I think that's going to be. So I'm going to change these manually for right now, just so that I can kind of keep track of what we're doing. Right, there's not that many of them. All right, and then to move these. Because we're going to need to re-register these whenever the library is reloaded, right? So we're going to need to add a couple things here for that. Okay, so that's the load. The unload also needs the state. So we'll just say if state there. Change those two to state. The update is obviously also going to need the state. So this is just going to be state and state dirty. I think actually, let's just do it this way. Okay. Get text. We obviously are going to need the state for that. So this is going to be that. Jacero, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate it. We are just kind of continuing fixing our debug console here to make it compatible with the hot reloading. Okay, so visible. And it looks like we're going to have ads here in a few seconds. So I'm just going to try and finish up what we're doing here, at least to the visible set. Right. And I think I've got like a minute left before the actual ads kick in. So I'm just going to keep going here for a few more seconds. I'm going to call this in state and then cold cast this. Okay, be right back. Ads. All right. And we are back. So, picking up where we left off, we have our in state. These are our keybound functions now. So these are basically taking an avoid pointer that's user data. So in order to bind those, that's sort of the method signature we need. So we're just going to cold cast sort of the state on the way in. Unfortunately, developing software is not as popular as playing Fortnite. Yeah. If it was, I would be be rolling in the dough, I guess, right? Yeah. It's never as popular as it is playing the actual game, for sure. I wish. All right. So yeah, at least for right this minute, we're not doing tons of fun stuff right now. We just have to fix some of our code. But we aren't that far off, thankfully. So void pointer in state. And then we will do the cold cast and use that. Just a few more functions here and we'll be ready to move on to something else. Okay. Almost done with that. Void in state. There's our history. Okay, and then in our consumer rights, we already know that we're passing the instance, which is going to be the state itself. So we can just cold cast instance. And then change our state pointer over there. Debug console on key. Listener instance in this case is technically our application, but I think we can actually narrow it down a little bit more than that. So I'm going to change the listener instance to actually be the console state as well. So I'll change that once we actually have the ownership of said console hooked up. So I'm going to take the listener instance here and then change all the instances of state pointer over to use state. And I think that is all of the instances of that. Now, if I build this, obviously there's going to be a few places where it throws up, which is to be expected. Okay, so keybinds. So I guess actually probably the first thing we should do is go to where we're actually creating the debug console, which should be in our testbed main. So there's our unload. Let's actually just go to the top here. All right, so debug console create. So what we'll need to do is this is our application. Application config. Where do we want to store this? I don't think I really want to put it on the application. I can't actually put it in the application because that is contained in the engine. So we just need to find a reasonable place to put it. So when we boot up, we're creating this. We don't really have a game state yet. So we get the state size, or do we actually? I forget, did I change that? Get state size. Yeah, we do immediately call it. Create application. Just making sure that we're not actually going to be doing this out of order. So our create application comes before engine start. What it's called, I believe. Yeah, so it's before our engine create. Our engine create is what sets the application state. That's what I was afraid of. So at this point, we actually can't actually do this here, which is before the system's initialization, which is kind of, how do I want to handle this then? I guess what I could do is I could put an opaque pointer. I suppose actually I could create the, why am I waiting till here to actually allocate the game state? Because of this. But that's gotten on my way more times than I care to count at this point. So I'm thinking maybe I just move this to the application create. I think that's what I'm going to do, because that keeps getting in my way and it's getting really annoying. So I'm going to take that responsibility away from the engine and leave it up to the application to create that. Because it should know about its state anyways. So I guess why would we have the engine do it? So, which is probably going to eliminate the need for this, honestly. So when we boot testbed, this is actually where we're going to set the game state. And then this is going to be the state memory requirement, which I don't think is actually used anywhere else. Oh, whoops. I guess I should say find all references to this one. Yeah, so we're not actually doing this here. This is create application, so get state size. Yeah, why would I not? So I suppose I could do it in entry as well. That also seems kind of poopy though. But I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this. We get rid of get state size. What was that? Get state size. Yeah, where was that? Let's not even do this, right? Let's get rid of this. We're going to simplify this a little bit. We're not going to do any of this here. When we boot the game, I think that is when we'll go ahead and set this up. So this is literally just going to become size of. state. Okay. So we do that. The game state itself is what's going to hold our debug console. So I'll include where is that in relation to this? Should be on the same level, yeah. Debug, whoops. Debug console. And then here we will put in the game state, let's see, I guess right here. Debug console state, debug console. All right, then in testbed main, to this we can just pass the address of game inst state. This is going to have to be cold cast to a game state. And then we need debug console. Right. Okay. So there's our create. And I'm just going to copy this because we need it in a few other places. Namely, load. And down here, where is, got another spot here, update needs it. Get entry text needs it. Debug visible needs it. Get text needs it. And unload needs it. Oh, and you know what? We already have these cold casted to some places, in some places. So let's actually just do that. All right. Yeah, I can do the same thing here as well. State debug console. Just simplify that where we already have the cold casting going on. Let's get rid of this. Don't need all that. Okay. Oh, here's one more. All right. Looks like I missed something. Oh, I need the address of here. Okay, let's build this real quick. I know I haven't gotten everything yet, but just as a sort of status report. Okay, so we have 8 errors here. Incompatible function pointer types. Yes, this is not surprising. So history forward and history back. Doesn't that want a key map binding add? PFN keybind callback. What's the signature on this again? Keybind callback. Why did this work before with no? That's interesting. So I had no arguments before and it worked fine. And then I added one and it just does not seem to like it. So the type is keys, binding type, modifiers, and user data. Do I really have to add all that stuff? Kinda sucks if I do. I don't think I want the debug console to know about all that. All right, I guess what I can do is I could just, okay. Instead of doing that, I'm going to change all these back to their actual type. And I will just wrap these in new functions that are of this type, basically. Debug console C. Just modify all these back. I'll call this state. Get rid of the cold cast. This will be a little bit cleaner anyways. There's only a few of these regardless. Sometimes refactoring can be really annoying. Sometimes it's satisfying. Sometimes like this, it's just kind of obnoxious. This is probably the way I should have done it initially. Okay. So the game keybinds, basically what I'm going to have to do for that is any of these that are airing out, I'm going to have to... Actually, it looks like these are going to be the only ones that are really the issue. Because most of the rest of them are wrapped. Just for some reason I bound these two directly. I'm not really sure why I did that. So I'm just going to copy this down here real quick, just temporarily. Game on console, history back. And then I'll call this, sending through the user data. And now I'm basically going to do the same thing for forward. Change this to forward. Yeah, that should work. And then just change these to call those methods instead. Take these, move them up here to, let's see, where's all the console stuff? Right here. Okay. So that should resolve those issues. Also, we don't just want to pass the game instance here. We actually want to pass the state debug console. We actually want the address of that. So that's going to be the instance data that's passed there. Game console on scroll. These are going to wind up being the same thing. So these are all going to be, oops, debug console. These are going to just pass user data. Come back here to the bottom. These are going to be the same thing. User data. User data. May have to actually cast those from a void pointer, but whatever. That should be fine. All right, what is this complaining about now? Incompatible function pointer types. So change visibility. So we have key. What is this complaining about? So we have the map, the key, the type, the modifiers, the user data, and the callback. I don't know why this is complaining about that. Game console on change visibility. The user data here is going to also have to be passed through. User data. Just pass that through, which means this also needs to be this. Let me just build real quick and see if this, how far this gets. Okay, it looks like it actually, looks like everything compiled correctly, actually. I wonder if I missed anything. You know what? I'm going to have a little faith. And I'm going to go ahead and run. Nope. All right. Application on resize. During a user callback. What? Let's take a look at call stack here. So engine on resized, render on resize. Oh, you know what? Let me, just for the sake of sanity, I'm just going to rebuild everything. I trust nothing. All right, let me run this again. Same result. Okay. So application on resize has evidently done something terribly wrong. But what? So game state. I wonder if this has to do with me moving when the state was actually created. Let's do, why would that fail here though? Oops. Application on resize. Did I update everything here that I should have? I think I did. I think so. I think all these things are correct. Oh, I actually know of something that I didn't do in the debug console, but it looks like we've got another problem on our hands here before we can get to that even. So the application on resize. Is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, that's 4. Okay. So that seems to be fine. Where is this being called from? Engine on resized. Render on resize. Here we go. So the game instance appears to have valid function pointers. Application on resize. It has a size. So what is this complaining about then? Why is the state here? This is the application engine state. That's the application. So the game state looks fine here, but not when we're in here. game instance state. So this state is just wrong for some reason. And it doesn't look like it's actually zeroed out, which is a problem. All right, I guess what we really need to do is step through our code and see where the problem is. So let's go to entry.c. And we'll have a look at create application. This is the very first thing that we're doing. So we load the game lib. The engine state is 0 here. So I think part of the problem, I'm just going to close these other files real quick just to make this a little bit easier to navigate. So the testbed main, when we boot that, that is when we actually create the game state, which is pretty early in the cycle. So we set that here. This should zero it out by default. I don't see anywhere here where we're actually zeroing that out or anything. So that actually should be correct. So we create the application. We load up the dynamic library. The application resize. Maybe the application resize is actually registered too soon. Because, yeah, I'll bet that's what it is actually. So I actually removed some code here. Where I zeroed out the state. Out application state equals 0. Yeah, okay, so that is a null pointer. Okay, so the application on resize at this point probably shouldn't be handling it if we don't have a way to actually do that yet. Okay, so if not game instance state, oops, return. Okay, now we're up and running. Okay, we should have, wow, our debug console doesn't work yet, still, somehow. All right, because we did not move or modify the event registers. And also we're not passing an instance, which is no good either. Okay, so that is the last thing that we need to do, and hopefully this will tie this up for us. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to say debug console on, on lib unload. This is going to take the state, and I'm going to have load and unload. Then I'll go right after this update, put this here. Oops. And take these registers. Had a to-do move these anyways. And put these on the load. Go to that. The instance for the listener needs to be the state. That's the console state. So that we have that. Debug console on key treats the listener instance as the state, so we should be good there. And then we don't unregister from those anywhere. That's neat. Okay. So that's another bug we found. So we should probably go ahead and handle that as well. So we'll go ahead and do that. And now all we need to do is call these load and unloads from our function here. So we have unregister events, and then we're also going to go ahead and do the debug console on unload. And we need the debug state there, so game instance state. So that's going to be the application state, which is going to be our game state. So we cast that. Then we have our debug console, and then we need the address of this whole thing. All right, so that's the unload, and then the load is here. I don't think any of this. Yeah, that should be fine. Let's build and try that. First off, let's see if our actual console opens yet. All right, well, none of our key bindings are working, so that's that's neat. I wonder why. Oh, now they are. Okay, it looks like our console is not coming up correctly because our keybinds work until we actually try to open the console, and then it fails. But pressing the tilde activates the console. So let's say on key pressed. Oh, you know what? We probably visibility. So when we set the visibility, pass through the state, if state visible equals visible. I wonder if this is just like not getting triggered somehow. So press tilde. State is there. So state visible is true. currently true. And we're setting it to false. Why would it already be true? Okay, something is strange with our state here. And I don't think it's any of this. So when we create our state, we're defaulting it to false. You know what? Let's come back to this. I want to see if the hot reloading works. So I'm going to run this. And I'm going to run this. And it looks like our console consumer is once again a problem. And I'm going to guess it's the consumer callback that's the problem. So, where is it? Consumers. Yep, the callback is still not actually set up correctly. All right. Oh. I see what's happening. So, it's these errors that are kind of biting us. So basically what we're doing is we're freeing the library. And then we're freeing this, but because we are hitting the error in here that says, hey, this was allocated outside of our memory system having been created, and our new library isn't loaded yet, it's crashing. So this is not really a great solution, but I'm just going to move these before this. All right, so we'll run again, rebuild. Yeah, looks like we hit it again. We're probably hitting some sort of other error. Watch file updated. Oh, right, we're freeing this memory here. Okay, we can move that too. Although I'm thinking the library functions, that might be an issue too. But maybe not. All right, running. Let's build. Dang it. We still have something else that is... Oh, right. Okay. These are kind of handled anyways by the return code, so I'm just going to get rid of those. I don't think that's going to get us completely out of the woods, but it might. Okay, that looks like it has done it. So now we can hot reload our game code. It looks like it's actually working. And our keybinds are set up. I think we still have an issue here with the console. For some reason. What did this break the application somewhere? Memcopy. Pushing a key map. Game console change visibility. game instance is the user. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we passed game instance for that. Game on console change visibility. Oh, I see. So for one of them, we're passing game instance, which is actually what that function expects. And for these other two, we are passing the debug console, which is not what we want. Right. So this is actually not supposed to use user data. This is supposed to do state debug console. We need the address of that. That's probably why that's broken. Okay, let's build that. Oh, might help to stop running the application first. Okay, let's run this. And I'm just going to kind of resize and move around this window for a second here. So I'll put this down here, bring this here, and I'll resize this just a little bit. Good enough. All right, and I'll go ahead and we'll build our game code. And it looks like we've loaded the symbols for that. We are still getting some dynamic allocator errors here. I'm probably going to change those to warnings, but our code is reloading. So one of the advantages to this, and the thing I really wanted to show off, was in our testbed main, we can now change the way that our code works and see it in real time. Now, obviously, anything that changes the way that data is organized in memory, that's going to be breaking change. You're not going to be able to hot reload that. Anything that changes exported function interfaces, that's also going to be an issue. But outside of that, if we wanted to, let's say, for example, let's make, let me just find here. Can I show my pets on stream? Do I have one in here, is the question. I do. Let me, I will grab her in just a second. Let me finish my thought here, and I will go do that. Okay, so, so where we are creating this rotation on the first mesh over here, this guy, if I wanted to, let's say make it rotate the other way, I could then just take this, change the logic, right? Make that negative, save it, build, and when I build this, it should start rotating the other way. Or it should crash. So why did we crash? Are we still hitting? A console consumer error? Really? All right. Let me turn off the debug console for a second. Let me turn off the debug console for a second so I can actually demo what I'm trying to demo, and then we'll fix that, because there's still something in here that I think is being held onto and not recreated correctly. So let me reset this. All right. So we have our application running. Let me just come in here and so we see our cubes rotating, right? And we come in here and we want that to spin the other way, for example, and see what that looks like. We can then rebuild our game code and it spins the other way. And we can do that without having to reload the engine, which is the whole point of all of this. So obviously it looks like there's still some sort of stability issues with this. I think there's a lot of issues around the debug console that I'm going to have to sort out. But you know, this is just a way that we can sort of test some stuff. So like if I wanted to maybe change, I don't know, the speed of it, for example, I could, you know, do something like make it rotate 5 times as fast and then rebuild. And now it's rotating really fast. And so a lot of people ask me, you know, am I going to implement a scripting language and so forth? And I would argue with this that you don't really need one, right? You can actually perform a lot with this in your actual game logic, I think. And you know, it's really quite powerful. So that's a little bit dizzying though. So I'm going to change that back to what it was. Build a game code, and there we go. So the other thing about this system that we've set up is not only does it work for DLLs, but it eventually can be used for anything. So probably the next thing that we'll take a look at is maybe hot reloading some of these assets, like our textures, for example, so that we can, you know, maybe change this texture, save it to disk, and then have it show up in the editor. That might be something that we can look at as well. Really quickly though, let me go ahead and get my kitty. I see she's down there, so give me 1 second. There we go. And let me change here to the camera. And here's my kitty. This is Pumpkin. She's 12 years old, give or take. I got her from the pound a long time ago. She's a Japanese bobtail. So she is definitely my my pride and joy for sure. Definitely my favorite kitty. She's displeased a little bit at the moment that I woke her up, but she was gonna have to follow me out of the office here in a few minutes, anyways, when I exit the stream. But yeah, this is Pumpkin. Oh, she's got a little bit of sneezing too. But yeah, she's a really sweet kitty. There she is. Okay. She's sneezing, so I'm gonna let her go back and do her thing. Okay. Yeah, she is adorable. I love her. I love her so much. Yeah, I've got her. I've got 2 dogs, which are not in here at the moment, and I have the office actually kind of closed off for noise purposes. And then I have another cat, which he's kind of an idiot, to be honest. But I love them all the same. But yeah, I've got 4 animals. So you probably heard my dog in the last stream. He's 13 and change now. So you know, he gets kind of cranky when he gets tired and wants to go to bed in the bedroom. So, but yeah, so that is probably going to do it for this stream. I think we've made some pretty good progress here. I do have some issues to sort out with the debug console, so we might take a look at that in the next stream. I'm going to make a note of that just so that we sort of can come back to that. It really seems like the whole console consumer callback just doesn't seem to reload correctly. Even though I'm sort of unloading it and reloading it, it doesn't seem to want to cooperate. So I'll have to figure out why that is. But you have to leave now, so have a great day. Yeah, I actually have to go too, so I'm wrapping up the stream now. Thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the support and you guys following along. Don't forget that I do have a YouTube channel as well, for those of you that aren't aware of that. And yeah, I think that's gonna do it. So let me see. I will go ahead. I'm gonna raid another channel now. I will go ahead and raid Strager because I actually like I like watching his stream on occasion. He does a lot of work in C++, as well as some other languages. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and raid his channel. And thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you guys next time.